The Rhône in France is synonymous with great red wines, but it's also home to some of the greatest white wines in the world. Things like Chauve's White Hermitage, the Chateau Beaucastel, Vieilles Vignes Roussanne, one of the greatest white wines I think that I've ever tasted. In Northern Rhône, you have an entire appellation dedicated to great white wine called Condrieu that's made with the Viognier grape. The white wines of the Southern Rhône are usually going to be blends. You're going to find grapes like Roussanne, Marsanne, Bourboulenc, Clairette, Grenache Blanc, and a slew of others. If you're bored of drinking things like Chardonnay, Pinot Grigio, Sauvignon Blanc, I really think that you should give Rhône white grapes a try. I love the grapes Roussanne and Marsanne. I think they offer tremendous drinking experiences. They can be slaty, they can be honeyed, have a little bit of tangerine peel-like flavors. Rhône wines can be crisp, but they can also be a little bit heavy, oily, meaty, almost red wine-like. They also can be made fresh. A lot of times you'll see Côte de Rhône Blancs that are made in stainless steel, to wines like Châteauneuf-du-Pape Blanc, which are barrel fermented a lot of the times. And yes, you will find white wines in Châteauneuf-du-Pape. I think less than 10% of all wine production coming out of the Rhône is white wines, so they're a little bit rarer. They're going to be a little bit more expensive if you're not going for a Côte de Rhône Blanc. Today here, I'm going to blind taste 6 different white wines from the Southern Rhône. We have one simple Côte de Rhône Blanc, a more expensive Châteauneuf-du-Pape Blanc, and everything in between. Unfortunately, I don't have any Northern Rhône whites. Those are extremely rare. Maybe I could do something like a Condrieu White Hermitage tasting, maybe in the future. Hey, I can dream, right? Let's blind taste some Rhône white wines. Some serious wines we're tasting out of my Gabriel Glas Standart editions. I absolutely love these glasses. Probably my favorite glasses in the world. They work great with all types of wines. I'll leave a link in the description box below so you can check them out. If you purchase them, it helps the channel out a lot, so I appreciate it. One of the wines is a very inexpensive wine. It's a Côte de Rhône Blanc, and the rest are Southern Rhône Crus. So we'll see if the Côte de Rhône stands out, or maybe we'll see an upset, like March Madness. These are wines from the Southern Rhône, where it's a very warm Mediterranean climate. Sometimes producers have problems with acidity. I think Marsanne and Roussanne are the most interesting grape varieties, but now in the South, producers have to use a lot more Bourboulent. Sometimes they can use Picpoul. Sometimes they can use Clairette, they're just higher acid varieties, because otherwise the wines can feel too fat. That being said, a lot of people that are new to white wines don't like that sourness, that high acidity, so I think this is a good introduction if you're trying to bridge somebody to drink more white wine, which I am always trying to do because I love white wines. Let's go with number 1 here. It smells like a lot of Viognier. Lots and lots of yellow flower daffodil type flavors. Kind of like a dried peach, but the slate, it's really slaty too. Not all that complex. Actually, the finish is kind of short. It's crispy, it's unusual. I think a lot of people might like it because of its floral qualities, but I think it might be the Côte de Rhône. We'll see here. Let's go down here to wine number 2. Anyways, had these Corvin like normal and had somebody mix them up, so I don't know the order. I did know what the wines were before I bagged them though. Let's go on to number 2 here. 2 is also Viognier, but it's a little bit more explosive. Oh, now some lime and guava starts to come out. Green guava especially, lime a little bit. It started out floral, but now some of those fruit flavors are coming through. You know what's cool about these wines? Because the fruit is so, this has got a long finish as well. It has this spike of fruit intensity without that sourness and that spike of acidity that bothers some people. This has enough. Sometimes Southern Rhône wines feel too fat. These two both had pretty nice acidity. Whatever 2 is, it's a good wine. 3, you pick up just a hint of vanilla. It's not too oaky, because in the Southern Rhône, they sometimes use bigger barrels. They don't always use small barriques, 225 liter barrels. Burgundy barrels are 228 liters. Just nice little fun fact. When you're visiting cellars, 3 liters doesn't sound like a big difference, but really you see a little bit of a difference. A little bit of wood. Now this is really honeyed. Some dried apricot flavors, really complex. Dried yellow peach, a little bit of mineral. It's not floral like the first 2. Number 3 reminds me of a wine that might be dominated by Roussanne, Marsanne, Grenache Blanc. I think 1 had more Viognier. I think 2, it reminds me of a Rhône wine that has a little bit more Clairette or Bourboulenc, has a little brighter acidity. 3 is a little bit fatter. What I mean, it doesn't have as much acidity. It's a pretty ripe wine. It's really honeyed. It's stereotypical a Southern Rhône white wine can taste like. It's really good. I like the honey, like the complexity. It's got a super long finish. Let's move on to number 4 here. 4 smells the most modern. You smell the wood, but it's not too much. A little bit of lemon, I mean, these wines are a lot different. Hold on. White peach or maybe even quincy. This is more yellow peach, more honey. I don't like too much oak and red wines, but I like oaky white wines. I don't know, it's something weird. This is not too oaky, but it's oakier than the previous three. Whatever 4 is, this is ambitious winemaking. What I mean by that, the wood tastes of higher quality. It's expensive. Got a long finish. It's so funny because it's a modern take on a Rhône wine. I wonder if this is aged in barriques, maybe smaller barrels, because I pick up more of the wood type of flavor, or maybe it's aged in new wood. I like it a lot. It's good. Whatever, it's good. I like that there's a lot of diversity here. I read one comment, somebody's like, oh, your tasting notes all sound the same. And sometimes that's true. Sometimes the wines can taste really similar. I think all the wines here so far, the first 4 tasted very different. Wine 5 is a little bit dustier. It has just a hint of white peach, but it's more citrusy, more neutral, more mineral. Maybe just a touch of dandelion. Maybe a wine that has a little bit, maybe Grenache Blanc can be sometimes quite a neutral grape, or Clairette or Bourboulent. It didn't smell like a lot of fruit, but when you bite it, it is like biting into fresh guava. So I like it. So this really reminds me of Grenache Blanc because of the mouthfeel. It's really full and rich. Green guava type flavor. One thing's for sure, these are not boring wines at all. Not at all. Wine 6, also more neutral, more lemony flavor. Lemon, slate, just a hint of like old cigar box, not brand new vanilla or French wood. French know how to do barrel fermented white wines so well. They just, maybe they use the best oak for themselves. That's what a joke is in the wine industry. 6 is really interesting because it doesn't have a ton of flavor, doesn't have a ton of aromas, but it gets citrusy and then the length. The citrusness just stretches out on the palate. None of these wines were boring. I had one here that I think was of lesser quality than the other ones, which I think is the Côtes du Rhône. If it's not, we're gonna have a big time upset here. These are gonna be completely different drinking experiences to Chardonnay, Sauvignon Blanc, Yves Riesling. So let's start with number 1. It was the Daffodil. That remember I said that had that yellow flower type flavor? The only thing was the flavors weren't as sharp and the finish was a little bit shorter. I think it might be the Côtes du Rhône. Let's see. I also think that it had a lot of Viognier. I gave it 87 points. Let's take a look here, see if it's the simple Côtes du Rhône or if I'm gonna get schooled here. Let's see how good my palate is. Wow, shoot, this is the Boisson, this is the Cairanne, this is the Silice, 2021. This is $22. Okay, so not a super expensive wine. It's Clairette, Grenache Blanc, and Roussanne. Organic producer. Cairanne is an appellation which I think just makes extraordinary red wines. This is the first Cairanne Blanc that I've ever tasted, actually. White wines on the Rhône are of smaller quantity, so it's nice to taste this. It is what it is. Let's move on here to number 6. The flavors were muted. It was more slatey. Remember I said, it wasn't explosive, but on the finish was really impressive. It was long. I gave it 91 points. I thought it was super enjoyable. I'm really excited to see what the Côtes du Rhône is because, I don't know, let's take a look here. Wow, okay, this is the Domaine de la Mordore. This is the Lirac Blanc. This is the Laurent des Bois. This is $50. This is regarded as one of the greatest white Liracs. Lirac is an appellation right across the Rhône River from Châteauneuf-du-Pape, region that I think produces a lot of good wines, good value for money. In the Southern Rhône, the whites are usually more expensive than the reds because they're so rare. This is Viognier, Roussanne, Marsanne, Grenache Blanc, and Clairette. $50, biodynamic producer. Really funny because I didn't pick up the Viognier. It wasn't super aromatic, but I could not deny the length, I remember. Very good wine. This is 2021. 91 points. Number 5, remember I said it was lemon. At first, remember I said the nose was kind of muted, but then all of a sudden when I bit onto it, it was lots of fruit. I thought it had the mouthfeel of a Grenache Blanc type play. I have it at 91 plus points. Let's take a look here. This is the Domaine de la Presidente. This is the Châteauneuf-du-Pape Blanc. 45% Grenache Blanc, 25% Clairette, 20% Roussanne, 10% Bourboulent. $40. Actually super affordable for a Châteauneuf-du-Pape Blanc. They can start to get super expensive. Sometimes Châteauneuf-du-Pape Blancs, they can lack acidity. Less than 6 or 7% of all wines produced in Châteauneuf-du-Pape are white. So if you want to get in, I think this is good value. I'm glad that I picked out the Grenache Blanc here. Number 3. Honey layered long head wood. This was the most traditional Rhône type flavor. I think the honey really stood out. It reminds me a lot of Marsanne, a lot of maybe if Marsanne Roussanne type of blend. I think this is the most Rhône wine. If you really want to taste that, out of all these, I gave it 92 points. Let's take a look. I think that my highest scored wine might have been the fresh Côte de Rhône Blanc. I think so. Let's take a look. This is a very famous, the Montirius Vacqueyras Minéral. 38 bucks, 2020. 50% Bourboulent, 25% Grenache Blanc, 25% Roussanne, I still can't pronounce that right. At $38, biodynamic producer, love this producer. This is a pretty iconic white wine. Vacqueyras offers tremendous value for money. Again, the white is a little more expensive than their Vacqueyras reds because they make so little of it. I have had this before aged. I don't think this is aged in wood, but I picked up some wood type flavors. Maybe it was the vintage 2020. Okay, it is what it is. I mean, this is the complexity. The top two wines, I was splitting hairs between 3 and 4 here. I was looking to go 4, maybe a little higher. I was looking to go number 3, this Minéral, just a little bit higher. Number 4, it was the most modern out of them, had a lot of sleek wood flavors. It was like a blend, but having the traditional Rhône grape varieties, but having new oak. So let's take a look here. I gave it 92 plus points. I said it was the most ambitious wine. Let's take a look. This is the Domaine Galuval, the Cairanne Blanc, the La Valée, 2020 Roussanne, Clairette, and Grenache Blanc. $40. I thought it was a very good wine. Quite ambitious. The top wine. I can't believe this. Number 2, green guava, daffodil, bright fruit, and it had length, and it had nice acidity. I gave it 93 points. And look what it is. It's the simplest wine in a bunch. This is the Domaine de la Presidente. This is the Côte de Rhône Blanc. 90% Viognier. Remember I said 1 and 2 had Viognier in them. Let's go on to number 2 here. 2 is also Viognier, but it's a little bit more explosive. 5% Grenache Blanc, 5% Roussanne. 12 bucks. I don't know. Maybe because it was zesty, crispy. I preferred the cheapest wine. Blind giving that wine 93 points. That's incredible. Oh my goodness. What do you guys think of Rhône white wine grapes? Have you tried them before? You have a crew that you prefer? Maybe it's a Côte de Rhône. Maybe it's a Châteauneuf-du-Pape white. Let me know in the comments below. Cheers.